We'll now go to the consent agenda, and Mr. Bond, I believe we have a 6A we want to add to this, to the 6 items, is that correct? All right, so you go ahead. I mean, just tell us what it is, and we'll do it. We'll all have a motion for the consent agenda.
6A is a budget amendment. It is to make funds available for the design services contract for the water treatment plant. And it would be 6A consent agenda.
In other words, that was just a follow-up from our last meeting, basically.
Right, this is actually the formal budget amendment. It is doing exactly what we approved at the last meeting.
Okay,
I have one
Question?
question on
Sure.
item 2.
item 2, okay.
With this interlocal agreement between Dallas and the city of Gastonia, are we progressing anywhere on the water rates at all with them at all?
Actually, with regard to our conversations with Dallas, has been focused on sewer, and we are Dallas and Gastonia are going forward jointly on an emergency sewer connection. Now, that emergency sewer connection will actually be the connection that if we ever want to join the systems together. So it reestablishes the physical connection that used to be there before anyway. So this is the engineering is underway, and so we're making progress on that. And that is really the sewer was where Dallas had their biggest need, more than water.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
On those same lines with the item on number 2, is that something that, this is for the emergency, correct?
Yes.
So that's something that Dallas is needing?
Yeah. In a way, what this is, there was an existing line because Dallas's system and our system were connected until about 30 years ago when Dallas separated. So what happened was there was concrete poured into that old pipe. The pipe has separated. It's not functional anymore. If we're going to set this up again, you have to put that pipe back in service. We are splitting the cost for the engineering proportionately. The longer run is on the Dallas side, but we will also have to have a meter on our side so that we will be able to meter the sewer. You don't have very many sewer meters. There are a few of them, but that also has to be designed and put in place. So this engineering work, which I guess is what was requested when I was the manager in Dallas, you know, it's taken that long. It's funny, with Stanley we were able to, you know, do the entire project from start to finish in a few months, but this has taken longer. But anyway, that will give us the physical connection for emergency purposes, which Dallas is really in a position that should something happen, they have no real options. With the city, with Gastonia, we have a number, our system is built in such a way that we have backup. They don't. This will also pave the way really to combine the systems back again. There won't be anything physically standing in the way. But what's being improved now is just the design service, just the design work. And then from there, you'd have to go to construction. But we're moving forward.
I guess that's my question, is that this is for emergency use only, but we don't have anything signed with them in a way that you say, well, this will be good for down the road when we do combine the systems. Shouldn't that be if we combine the systems?
Correct, if we combine. Now, what the history of these interconnects, and it used to be back, and this goes back into the 1980s, Gaston County used to pay for interconnects because they thought that would be one of the way to build the system. And so what we did is we did a lot of interconnects, and some of those interconnects then later became permanent because you've allowed the physical connection. Even for emergency purposes, one time we provided water to Bessemer City because of that. We have an emergency connection there. So it's really a good thing for the county. It's really more important for Dallas than it is for us. I mean, we would like to have the customer, but we don't need to have the customer. They need to have a backup in case something happens with that plant. That plant is on a very small creek. It's not very sophisticated. But I think this will bring us a little closer to bringing them on as a full customer. We're just arguing about the price, as you remember from the earlier correspondence.
Well,
They want a special deal, and we're saying, no, you gotta have the same deal that Stanley and everybody else has, so,
I
you know.
guess that's what I'm getting at is, right now, they're in a situation where they need an emergency backup. Okay? So we chip in $26,000 to give them that emergency backup. Then what incentive do they have for we say we're gonna pay this because eventually down the road, they may wanna connect. Well, if we provide them with their emergency backup, they no longer need to connect, and we just pay $26,000 to give them an out.
The state.
Not that I don't wanna be
Yeah,
neighborly,
yeah.
I mean, you wanna help your neighboring city out, but I'm just,
Well, Diener's already fined Dallas significantly for their operation of their plant. This was some years ago. So since that time, they have been working to try to keep things afloat, so to speak. But the state doesn't like these small little systems, and they will be pressuring Dallas and other small systems to make further improvements, which could be very costly. And whenever those big costs, next time, for instance, Lowell decided not to go in with this last deal that we were doing with McAdenville, because basically the state said, oh, we reissued you another 5 years on your wastewater plant, because they were ready to come. And then they said, oh, good, we got 5 more years, so we'll wait. So a lot of these small towns really do wait until they have to. So, but anytime we use, we would use it, we would get metered and we would get money for it. I mean, we would get paid then. Because we have two water connections, emergency water connections to Dallas, and in case something happens there, and it's happened a few times, they pay us for every gallon that goes through. And it's an emergency system. In the long run, their water system would be connected with us too, because again, they used to be connected. And there's a connection over on 321, and there's also one on North New Hope Road.
Mr. Kimball.
Todd, you
oh, yes,
Sure.
yes, I'm
kind of getting off, I know exactly where your questions are going, and mine kind of follows up a little bit to Councilman Pearsall's. Who is determining the emergency, and what criteria are they using? Because we certainly don't want to have a prolonged emergency because we don't want to hook up to something else. So, I mean, where does is that a Diener declaration of emergency? Is this going to be something that the mayor does in consultation with our mayor, or or your counterpart over in Dallas?
Usually what happens, and again, I'll use the water situation. If something happens, it might happen in the middle of the night. And the Public Works Department in Dallas and the Public Works Department here have a working relationship. We have that really with all the other cities. And we borrow each other's equipment, we do things like that. And should something happen, then it really takes place right away. We have an agreement and an understanding and a rate that they pay. That's really about what we have. But if you think about it, they will have to pay for every gallon that comes through. Actually, we just soon take all of it. Our plant at Long Creek right now could take all of it, and actually we really remember we were negotiating to take all of it. Right. So, and most of theirs is domestic waste too. There's not as much industry in Dallas, so the domestic waste works well with Long Creek. So again, it works pretty well for us. This is just really, it really is advantageous for the long run for the city. Okay. It's more advantageous for them short run, I think. They're more.
I agree. Okay, thank you.
It allows us to be prepared for the future.
Well, it allows them to prepare more than us.
Yeah, but we make out on it. Because they start paying us, and our costs will go down.
Mr. Barnhart, did you want to?
He was preparing.
Were you were heading this way?
He was preparing.
Got a full head of steam on.
I guess I would simply say good evening and what he said. I think the former town manager of Dallas is eminently qualified, having stood on both sides of this, to describe, and he did perfectly.
I wanted to pick his brain a little bit because I knew he'd seen both sides of the issue.
Well, and that's a common sense question, is why is this design only? And it represents that's where we are right now. is we've agreed on the design. And that's a positive step, because initially there were some questions regarding that. We had some concerns regarding some of the engineering that was done on their side. Most of the work, as the manager said, needs to be done on their side. Ours just has minimal point repairs where that concrete was put in and the installation of new meter units. So when you look at the actual cost, you know, it's going to be disproportionate, and the design reflects that, because they're mostly a complete line replacement, an upsizing of the line on their side of the meter. Ours is just that point repair and the installation of the new meter. It's a step. It's another step in regionalization, and, you know, if you want to have good neighbors, you got to be a good neighbor, and we have a pretty huge bucket at Long Creek, and with a lot of room in it, and actually that flow is good, because we're running that engine, you know, at less than it really was designed to run, so it's a benefit, and this is just that small incremental first step.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of 6A?
Motion here, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, right hand, please. Thank you.